For over 200 years, Oak Island has guarded its secrets in silence. But now, something has changed. At 110 feet beneath Smith's Cove, the team reached a depth that very few have ever touched. And what they discovered down there wasn't just unexpected. It may be one of the most important clues in Oak Island history. A hidden structure, a shocking underground anomaly, and evidence that suggests someone was here long before anyone ever imagined. Could this be the breakthrough that finally connects Smith's Cove to the legendary money pit? Or have they uncovered something even bigger, something deliberately buried to stay hidden forever? Because what lies beneath Oak Island may not just be treasure, it could be the answer to the mystery itself. And what they found at 110 feet might change Oak Island forever. Stay with us, because this discovery is deeper, stranger, and more dangerous than anyone expected. Just when many believed Oak Island had exhausted its secrets, a new wave of leaked information emerged. If the reports are accurate, the findings could be among the most important ever associated with the island. The rumors describe discoveries that have not yet been publicly revealed, along with behind-the-scenes developments that have only intensified curiosity. According to sources close to the investigation, this was not a simple equipment malfunction or another geological anomaly. The imaging data reportedly showed something remarkably clear: a sharply defined rectangular space hidden underground. Not a collapsed tunnel, not scattered debris, but a structure that appeared deliberately constructed by human hands. The chamber is said to measure approximately 10 feet across and 15 feet in length, resting at a depth exceeding 140 feet beneath the surface. To put that into perspective, it's comparable to burying a sealed room beneath a structure more than a dozen stories tall. Consider the challenge such a project would have presented centuries ago. Without modern excavation equipment, building a chamber at that depth would have required immense resources, skilled planning, and an extraordinary level of determination. Yet, the most puzzling detail may be the chamber's survival. At depths like these, underground pressure becomes immense. Typical wooden supports would struggle to withstand such conditions over long periods. Nevertheless, the reported scan suggests the structure has remained intact, despite potentially spending hundreds of years beneath the earth. For generations, nearly all attention has focused on the legendary money pit, a maze of collapsed shafts, flood tunnels, and fragmented evidence. Meanwhile, this newly reported chamber may have been resting nearby the entire time, hidden in plain sight. Some researchers now wonder whether the builders intentionally created distractions and misleading underground systems to lure future searchers away from the true location. But the mystery doesn't stop there. The leaked information claims the chamber may not be empty. According to the reports, scanning equipment detected at least 3 large rectangular objects positioned on the floor of the structure. The readings reportedly indicated unusually dense materials, leading some observers to speculate that the objects could be storage chests. Each object is believed to be roughly 4 feet long and 2 feet wide, dimensions strikingly similar to the treasure chests often described in historical legends. Whether they contain precious metals, valuable artifacts, important documents, or something entirely unexpected remains unknown. But if the reports are accurate, investigators may be looking at something far more significant than another underground anomaly. They may have found a vault, a sealed chamber that has remained untouched for centuries. And as excitement continues to build, reports suggest that excavation preparations are already underway. Heavy machinery is being moved into position as the team prepares for what could become the most important dig in Oak Island's long and controversial history. Because whatever lies inside that chamber may not simply solve a centuries-old treasure hunt, It could rewrite the entire story of Oak Island. What investigators reportedly discovered next may be even more extraordinary than the chamber itself. According to leaked information, sonar imaging revealed evidence of a thin metallic layer covering the chamber's interior walls. At first glance, that detail might seem minor, but researchers believe it could explain why the structure has remained intact, while so many other underground features on Oak Island have collapsed, flooded, or deteriorated over time. Unlike the surrounding tunnels and shafts that have been damaged by centuries of water intrusion and shifting earth, this chamber appears remarkably well preserved. Some experts have even compared its design to a protective enclosure, functioning almost like a sealed barrier that shields the interior from outside forces. The metallic lining is believed to consist of an unusual alloy or perhaps multiple engineered layers of metal working together. If confirmed, such a construction would suggest an impressive understanding of preservation and structural engineering. And that possibility raises an important question. What if the chamber wasn't built simply to conceal something? What if it was specifically designed to keep whatever was inside perfectly protected for generations? If the excavation team eventually gains access to this hidden space, the discovery could represent far more than another chapter in the Oak Island mystery. It might become the defining breakthrough that finally sheds light on a puzzle that has fascinated explorers and treasure hunters for more than 2 centuries. The mystery deepened even further when soil samples collected around the site reportedly contained microscopic traces of the same metallic material. That detail is significant. It suggests the anomaly isn't just a flaw in the scan data or a misreading of underground formations. Physical evidence of the material appears to exist in the surrounding environment. At this stage, some researchers are beginning to view the chamber less as a treasure vault and more as a carefully preserved time capsule sealed away from the world for an unknown purpose. But then came the development that truly changed the conversation. When scientists allegedly examined the metallic traces in greater detail, the results sparked intense debate. The material appears to contain a combination of lead and silver. While that may not sound remarkable on its own, historians immediately recognized something unusual. Similar mixtures, particularly those with matching isotopic characteristics, have been associated with sophisticated engineering projects during the height of the Roman Empire. These materials were reportedly used in specialized applications, including water systems, protective casings, and the sealing of important burial sites intended to endure for centuries. Such materials were neither common nor inexpensive. Producing them required considerable resources, specialized knowledge, and access to wealth that few groups possessed. What makes this discovery even more intriguing is that many of the techniques associated with these alloys eventually disappeared from widespread use, only resurfacing much later in European history, which leads to an obvious question. How could traces of such material end up buried deep beneath Oak Island? Suddenly, a number of earlier discoveries begin to take on new significance. Objects previously dismissed as curiosities, such as artifacts, some linked to Roman origins, or unusual coins recovered during earlier searches, may deserve a second look. For years, those findings were viewed as interesting but insufficient proof of anything larger. Now, however, they may fit into a much broader narrative. Because if a massive underground structure is truly connected to materials associated with ancient engineering traditions, then those earlier artifacts may not have been isolated discoveries at all. They could be pieces of a much larger puzzle. And that possibility opens the door to theories that challenge conventional history. According to accepted historical accounts, the Romans had no known presence in North America. Yet, discoveries like these continue to fuel speculation that ancient maritime knowledge may have been far more advanced than previously believed. This doesn't resemble the story of a single vessel accidentally drifting across the ocean. Instead, some researchers see signs of organization, planning, and deliberate activity. A project requiring coordination, expertise, and long-term purpose. One increasingly discussed theory proposes that hidden sea routes may have connected distant civilizations long before the officially recognized age of exploration. Others suggest that secretive groups operating centuries later, possibly organizations connected to traditions that eventually influenced the Knights Templar, could have inherited ancient knowledge, artifacts, or treasures, and transported them across the Atlantic for safekeeping. If true, Oak Island may have served as a secure repository for valuable relics, sacred records, or objects considered too important to leave exposed. Some believe the contents of the chamber could contain evidence capable of challenging long-held assumptions about history itself. Should the structure truly date back to an ancient period, the implications would be enormous. It could become one of the most significant archaeological discoveries of modern times. The idea that advanced knowledge survived through hidden networks and influenced construction projects centuries later would force historians to revisit entire chapters of the human story. And when the chamber is finally opened, what emerges may be far more valuable than gold or jewels. It may be evidence with the power to reshape our understanding of the past. Yet perhaps the most unsettling possibility is still to come. What if the chamber was never intended to be opened at all? Some insiders speculate that the structure may be protected by sophisticated defenses, flood systems, concealed mechanisms, structural triggers, or other safeguards designed to prevent intrusion. If those theories are correct, this chamber is more than a vault. It's a final line of defense, a system created to ensure its secrets remain buried forever. But the most fascinating clue may not be what's inside the chamber. It may be where the chamber is located. According to the leaked information, the structure is not positioned within the traditional money pit area. Instead, it reportedly sits at a separate location connected to the island's mysterious geometric layout, particularly the formation known as Nolan's Cross. What's especially intriguing is that the site appears aligned with one of the outer markers rather than the central area. To many researchers, that detail feels intentional, almost as though the location was chosen according to a hidden design understood only by those who created it. And if that's true, then the entire Oak Island mystery may need to be reconsidered. For years, investigators have debated whether Nolan's Cross is simply a natural arrangement of large stones or part of a much larger plan. Supporters of the latter theory argue that the formation functions like an enormous navigational guide, directing attention towards specific underground locations. Now, with the leaked coordinates reportedly matching one of these overlooked points, that theory is gaining renewed attention. The more closely people examine the island's layout, the less random it appears. The massive stones, the underground tunnels, the flooded shafts, the unusual alignments. Taken together, they begin to resemble pieces of a carefully engineered puzzle. A puzzle designed not only to conceal a secret, but perhaps to ensure that only the right person could ever find it. These developments have given rise to an entirely new theory among researchers following the Oak Island mystery. What if the chamber everyone is talking about isn't the ultimate destination? What if it's merely the doorway to something much larger? A growing number of investigators now suspect that this structure could serve as a decoy or perhaps an entry chamber intentionally placed before the true objective. In this interpretation, discovering the chamber would not mean solving the mystery. It would simply mean passing the first test. Viewed through that lens, many of Oak Island's most puzzling features begin to take on new meaning. The flood tunnels, the collapsing shafts, the elaborate underground obstacles. Perhaps they were never designed to protect ordinary treasure such as gold or silver. After all, wealth can be replaced, but sacred artifacts, priceless knowledge, objects of immense historical significance, those would be worth protecting at any cost. Consider the legends that have surrounded the Knights Templar for centuries. According to countless stories, the order may have safeguarded some of the most revered relics in Christian history, including the Holy Grail and even the Ark of the Covenant. If such items ever existed under their protection, they would not have been hidden carelessly. They would have been stored within carefully engineered structures designed to endure for generations and shield their contents from both nature and human interference. And remarkably, that's exactly the impression this newly discussed chamber creates, which leads to a fascinating possibility. Perhaps the chamber does not contain stacks of treasure at all. Perhaps it holds sealed containers preserving relics, manuscripts, or artifacts whose value cannot be measured in money. If that theory proves correct, then Oak Island's greatest treasure was never wealth. It was knowledge capable of reshaping our understanding of exploration, history, and civilizations long thought lost to time. This idea also appears to connect with clues uncovered during Season 12 involving the Knights Hospitaller, an order often linked to the legacy of the Templars. Some historians have suggested that when the Templars were dissolved in the early 1300s, their possessions and secrets did not simply vanish. Instead, they may have been quietly transferred to trusted allies who continued protecting them beyond the public eye. Suddenly, the puzzle pieces seem to fit together in a new way. Perhaps Oak Island itself is the mechanism. Perhaps Nolan's cross is the guide. And perhaps this chamber is merely the first barrier standing between modern explorers and something far more significant. If so, then the legendary money pit may have served an entirely different purpose. Rather than housing the treasure, it may have been engineered as a distraction, a false target designed to consume attention while the real secret remained hidden elsewhere. The amount of planning required for such a deception is difficult to imagine. It would imply a strategy established centuries ago and executed with extraordinary patience. And the most remarkable part, it may have succeeded. For more than 200 years, generations of treasure hunters concentrated their efforts in the wrong place. Enormous fortunes were spent. Dangerous excavations claimed lives. Countless theories came and went. Meanwhile, the chamber remained untouched, waiting silently beneath the island. And if that chamber is only the first stage of the mystery, then the true objective could still lie deeper underground. Today, an expanding network of experts is racing to uncover answers before the next major excavation begins, the Invisible Army. Accessing the chamber may prove to be one of the greatest challenges ever faced on Oak Island. Yet, this search differs from every attempt that came before it, because the team now has something unprecedented, a worldwide support network. The fellowship seen on television represents only a fraction of the people involved in solving the mystery. Behind the scenes, thousands of researchers, historians, engineers, and dedicated enthusiasts have spent years contributing their own discoveries. Every map, every document, every satellite image, every historical reference, nothing escapes scrutiny. Across online communities, researchers have uncovered intriguing connections between medieval trade routes, mysterious symbols, and records that hint at transatlantic voyages long before Columbus entered the history books. Others have reconstructed Oak Island using modern mapping technologies, revealing geometric relationships that resemble designs often associated with secretive organizations of the past. As more people join the effort, the search has evolved into something far bigger than a traditional treasure hunt. It has become one of the largest collaborative historical investigations of the modern era. Ideas once dismissed as speculation are now influencing real-world research and excavation strategies. And while digging continues on the island itself, countless parallel investigations are taking place online every single day. Discussion forums, research groups, historical archives, dedicated communities where every frame of footage and every newly released clue is carefully examined. These individuals are no longer simply spectators. They are active participants. In many cases, they possess analytical tools that rival those being used in the field. Some study satellite imagery and laser scanning data, searching for patterns invisible from ground level. Others compare ancient maps with modern surveys, looking for alignments that may have survived for centuries. Researchers are also combing through medieval banking records, shipping manifests, and historical documents connected to the Knights Templar in hopes of uncovering evidence of a much larger network. Meanwhile, geologists are examining underground anomalies and soil disturbances that could reveal forgotten construction projects buried deep beneath the island. With every new lead, the mystery continues to evolve. And with each discovery, the possibility of uncovering the truth feels increasingly real. Other investigators have focused their attention on ancient navigation records, comparing European port documents with puzzling references to transatlantic journeys that should not have existed according to conventional history. Together, these efforts have transformed Oak Island into a worldwide puzzle-solving project. Long before large-scale excavations targeted the swamp, many online investigators were already arguing that the area could conceal one of the island's most important secrets, one where the next breakthrough, and that changes the entire